in the direction of recommendations based on what we've studied for the Zcash community. The first observation from a lot of these protocols is that really only very limited kind of L1 consensus changes are needed to support generic ZK snarks and flexible data commitments that are needed for a programmable privacy development environment. And just making a more generic snark verifier and perhaps verification for certain types of signatures are basically all that you need in order to provide just the bare minimum baseline for programmable privacy on the network. The commit nullify privacy still remains state of the art for off-chain, on-chain computation. And there's really a question about what the best trade-offs are for Zcash in particular, in terms of what degree of programmability and what on-chain resources to dedicate to generic programmability. For the question of on-chain data storage, we think that it is probably worth considering mechanisms to support time-limited or metered storage. This is its own research question, of course, but it is an important consideration when you're considering increasing the surface area of on-chain data storage. To support a good developer experience, it is definitely worthwhile to provide a domain-specific language and high-level tooling of some sort for private computation. There are pre-built options available from various places in the ecosystem and other infrastructure. Obviously, Zcash has its own infrastructure for snarks and developer tooling, but focusing on the development of a DSL that has the ability to round off the sharp edges of any underlying cryptography that are involved seems to be a common theme for programmable chains, and seems to be important to kind of hide the complexity of the cryptography that's needed to implement these in practice. And finally, we think that including some kind of first-class support for mediated computation is important in development going forward. In particular, many protocols out there are integrating some kind of mediated computation layer in order to support private computation for multiple parties' private inputs. And especially in DeFi applications, this seems to be a very important consideration. We think that secure multi-party computation based mediated computation layers show a lot of promise and seem to be underexplored as a mechanism for generic programmability in a privacy-preserving way. The tools for MPC have been advancing in terms of their flexibility and efficiency over the last number of years, and we think that there's some really good potential to devise an MPC-based mediated computation layer that could be very performant and usable. This is another question for the Zcash community: how much of this infrastructure does Zcash, the Zcash Foundation, and the kind of core software want to provide for users or for developers, as opposed to leaving that to developers to implement on their own? And this is a discussion that is important to have amongst a variety of stakeholders in this community. So that's the picture for our broad recommendations.